With it being 7 p.m, we'll now commence, and welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of Wyndham City Council this Tuesday, the 3rd of December 2019. In the spirit of reconciliation, before we begin this meeting, we acknowledge the peoples of the Kulin Nation as the first custodians of the land on which this city is being built, and we pay our respects to elders and the diversity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities past, present and future. Please stand for the opening prayer and welcome. We pray for guidance in the Council's decision-making to achieve the best outcome for the people of Wyndham. Please be seated. I would like to acknowledge members of the gallery, press, councillors and staff here this evening for the Ordinary Council meeting. Some of you may have seen the notices in the foyer, but for those of you who didn't, I would like to make you aware of the following. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the internet. The recording will be archived and made available on Council's website. And whilst all care has been taken to ensure that your privacy is maintained, please be aware that your presence may be recorded. And finally, as a reminder for all tonight, can I please request that all attendees conduct themselves in a proper and orderly manner out of courtesy of others and in good spirit to support a proper meeting process. At these meetings, members of the public should observe the meeting in silence, and if I believe that any member of the gallery is not meeting the standards set out in the Council's Governance Local Laws 2013, I will call that person to order. If ignored, I do have the right to remove any person from the chamber and issue a fine up to $1,500 as prescribed in Wyndham's Governance Local Law 2013 Clause 12. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item number 2, which is apologies and requests for leave. Madam CEO, do we have any apologies?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We do have 2 apologies this evening, one from Councillor Heather Marcus and also from Councillor Henry Barlow. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam CEO. Therefore, we'll put a motion that an apology be noted for Councillor Heather Marcus and Councillor Henry Barlow. We had a mover in Kim McElhinney, seconder Aaron Arn. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item number 3, declaration by councillors of disclosure of conflict of interest or conflicting personal interest in any items of the agenda. Councillors, do anyone have any conflicts of interest that they wish to declare for tonight's agenda? No? Okay, thank you very much, councillors. We'll now move to item number 4, which is confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. And the motion will read as following, that the minutes of firstly, the Ordinary Council meeting held on Wednesday, the 6th of November 2019, as prepared and circulated, be confirmed. And number 2, the special statutory meeting held on Wednesday, the 13th of November, as prepared and circulated, be confirmed. Councillors, do I have a mover? Councillor Gibbons, thank you. And Councillor Maynard will do the second, thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item number 5, deputations and presentations. There are 2 presentations this evening, and it gives me great pleasure to talk about the first one, which is the MAV 10-Year Councillor Service Award, which has been provided to Councillor Kim McElhinney. On Thursday, the 17th of October, Councillor Kim McElhinney received the MAV's 10-Year Councillor Service Award. This award recognises a councillor's years of service and the contribution that they have made to their community. Councillor McElhinney was elected to council from 2005 to 2012 before being re-elected in 2016. Councillor McElhinney has been the Mayor of our city in 2007-8 and in 2011-12 and has served as the Deputy Mayor in 2009-10, and also in 2016-17. On behalf of councillors, we wish and to congratulate Councillor Kim McAloney on this award, and I will now present you the award, Kim. Okay, well done. 5.2, which is the 2019 Australian Human Resource Institute Award, the Wayne Cassio Organisational Development Award. And on Wednesday, the 27th of November, Council received a prestigious award from the AHRI, which is this award right here. And the awards program recognised and celebrated excellence in human resource management by individuals and organisations. The awards are independently assessed by an advisory panel of global leaders from human resources and business. I'm pleased to advise that Council received this award, which recognises excellence in initiatives which demonstrate innovation and a response approach to organisational change and development. The award is for the new approach that we are taking here in the City of Wyndham to transform our organisation from a traditional local government model to a contemporary, agile and focused model that aligns with industry trends. On behalf of councillors, I would like to congratulate Council and make particular mention of our CEO, Kelly Grigsby, for receiving this important recognition. Well done to the staff and to Kelly. Congratulations. Councillors, will now move to item 6, which is Officer Reports 6.1, Petitions, in particular 6.1.1, the receipt and response to petition dated the 19th of July, level crossing removal project in Wyndham. The report is outlined on pages 9 to 12 with a recommendation outlined on page 10. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Gibbons. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McAloney. Thank you. Okay, do I have, yes, Councillor Khan.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to put a shadow motion for alternative motion.
Wish to foreshadow an alternate motion?
Yep.
Can you please advise councillors what the alternate motion is?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish to propose an alternative motion that acknowledges the receipt of the petition that write to the state government that the current level crossing removal project at Cherry Street, Werribee, at the Werribee and Hopper crossing be put on hold pending a feasibility assessment of the alternative options, including the further community consultation, and provide, in principle, support for a tunnel under rail design options at Cherry Street, pending the outcome of more comprehensive feasibility assessment for the design options by the level crossing removal project.
Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. As it's for... Thank you. As that's foreshadowed, we will have the chance to discuss that as part of the debate on the primary motions. So thank you. I'll now move to the mover and whether or not the mover wishes to speak on this resolution.
Mr. Mayor, all we're doing is receiving this petition. That's all we're doing tonight, and a report will come to council later on.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gibbons. Does the seconder wish to make a comment? No. Okay. Is there any other councillors that wish to speak on this particular item? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, look, I think a petition is clearly talk about what options could council look into it, and a number of community members, as stated out in petition, they have been going through the stress. They prefer the options to be considered and the current project should put on a pause. So I would like to say that my fellow councillors look at, if this motion get lost, the next motion, which is I put forward as become alternate motion, shadow motion, to consider that tunnel design should be considered, and we have to say that what is the benefit having the level crossing compared to the tunnel crossing. So before, we haven't got much community consultation. I think this is a great opportunity for us to get behind the community, and this is for community, for the community. I think there's a number of benefits having putting this project on a pause. I know that it's at the moment currently on a go, and it could be completed in 2022, started in 2020, but I think Giving the circumstances of community, I think we're building society for the community, and I think we should consider community sentimentals. Thank you, Madam, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. McElhinney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councillor Gibbons has stated, we're only accepting a petition tonight. At 5:35, we received this late alternative notice of motion. No discussion, no consultation or email by Councillor Khan on this alternative motion, and therefore I cannot make an informed decision tonight, and on the basis of that I would not be accepting an alternative motion. I can say we've had numerous emails, discussions, and have ample opportunity to ask for feasibility studies from the officers or from the state government. Therefore, I will not be supporting an alternative motion tonight, and I wait the response from the councillor for the recommendation on the petition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McElhinney. Are there any other speakers on the motion? No? Okay. Sorry. Yep. Okay. Well, with that, just so I'm clear for all councillors, we will be voting on the officer recommendations in 6.1.1. In the event that does not succeed, we will therefore debate Councillor Khan's proposed alternate motion. Okay. We're all clear? Thank you. Great. With that in mind, I will now ask all councillors that are in favour, please raise your hand. Okay. Thank you. The councillors that are against, please raise your hand. Okay. Thank you. You can once I've declared how the vote has gone, so very, very quick on the mark there, Councillor Khan. Okay, very clearly this original resolution has now passed, so that will now be recorded. In terms of Councillor Khan's request for a division, we'll now hold a division. All those in favour of the original resolution, please raise your hands. Councillors Gibbons, McElhinney, Maynard, Gilligan, Shaw, Arn and Hooper. Councillors who are against, Councillors Khan and Councillor Villagonzalo. We have now recorded that. Thank you. Okay, we now move on to...
Another point of clarification. What happened in the event of that, this motion being passed, what happened to the shadow motion, for the knowledge of the public?
Thank you, Councillor Khan. To be very clear, it's elapsed because the original resolution passed with a clear majority. Thank you. 6.2, strategic reports. 6.2.1, the draft coastal and marine management plan. The report is outlined on pages 13 to 19 with a recommendation on page 14 and a printed attachment from pages 3 to 152. Can I have a councillor move this resolution, please? Councillor Arn, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hooper? Okay, thank you. Councillor Arn, as the mover, do you wish to speak on the item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Beautiful coastlines often attract tourists. So when I visit new places, I always want to visit their coastlines. And this management will help us to better manage our coastlines. The vision for this draft plan is to connect and enhance the unique qualities of Wyndham's coastline for greater access and enjoyment, and to facilitate appropriate coastal development and tourism. This includes the creation of accessible and connected coastal sites that can support healthy communities, our environments and local economy and tourist destinations. This 150-page draft plan is guided by state government's Marine and Coastal Act 2018 and Draft Marine and Coastal Policy 2019, as well as a range of Council's relevant guidelines, strategies, and policies. I do want to thank the officers involved in this draft plan, Peter, Antonetti, who is also here tonight, and Sue. And I encourage residents to read the detailed draft plan and provide us your valuable feedbacks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arn. Are there any other speakers for this item? If there are no further speakers, we'll now move to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against? Carried. Item 6.2.2, Active Wyndham Strategy Adoption. The report is outlined on pages 20 to 24. The recommendation is on page 20 with the attachments on pages 25 to 38. Councillors, do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Peter Maynard. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Khan. As the mover, do you wish to speak on this item? Councillor
Yes,
Maynard?
I do. Thank you. The active Wyndham strategy has evolved after a considerable amount of work by council officers and, more importantly, valued feedback from community members. This strategy has superseded the Wyndham Leisure Strategy 2013 as the overarching document and provides a long-term vision for Wyndham. Change page. This strategy is Council's overarching document to guide our future priorities and long-term strategic plans, helping to support residents to participate in regular and/or lifelong participation in physical activity, whatever that may be, whether it be active or passive sporting or recreational activity. The Active Wyndham strategy presents a long-term aspirational vision for Wyndham to be a leading physically active community and outlines the key strategic directions and priorities to realise this vision. We are all acutely aware of the messages that have been promoted in the press about the long-term effects of inactivity and poor health choices, and what the long-term effects are on community members and the cost to society in the long run. Currently, Wyndham has a population around 290,000 residents, and by 2040, with new projections, our forecast population is expected to pass the 515,000 mark. So it is extremely important that all community members are supported and encouraged in meeting their desires and supporting their abilities to reach their health and wellbeing goals in maintaining a healthy and physically active lifestyle, whatever that may be. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Maynard. Do I have any other speakers on this item? No?
Yes, I do,
yes.
actually. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I actually think this is a very good document, and I do want to commend council officers on the work that they do. I agree with Councillor Maynard that, you know, it's really important our people in our community are active, stay active, and we support that, you know, through our capital development and our infrastructure. And I think we actually do a terrific job of that actually overall, and we'll talk about a little some of those projects actually in the vicinity of about $100 million over the course of this evening, projects that are obviously within our remit. But one of the I suppose my only piece of feedback or comment I want to make in this, and the director won't be surprised, we've had a couple of emails back and forth, is whilst a strategy like this doesn't have a direct financial impact, it does have operational financial impacts over the course of our council term and quite possibly over the course of our over the next council term. And I do think it is important as we start to prepare these documents and these strategies that we do get a better overview of how we think we will actually have investment. Is this council only investment? Is this a public-private partnership? Are these state, federal government grants? And it could be a combination of all those things. But going forward, I would like us to have some more information in the reports in terms of how we think some of these strategies will be executed via investment from either other local government bodies or via public-private partnerships. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shaw. Do I have any other speakers on this item? Okay, we'll now proceed to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Against? Carried. Item 6.3, Policy and Advocacy. Item 6.3.1, Aged Care Transition and Future Directions for Aged Care Services. The report is outlined on pages 39 to 45 with the recommendation outlined on page 40. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor McAlani. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Khan. Councillor McAlani, do you wish to speak on the item?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'd just like to say the older residents in Wyndham continue to grow like other population groups in our city. There's significant change occurring in the aged care sector, as most people know, and it's important that we as a council consider how our older residents are experiencing these changes and navigating them and are supported in accessing care they need. Council will continue to play a role in provision of a number of services such as meals, social support, transport, home modification and maintenance. We will also support the older Wyndham residents with the transition to the new aged care service environment by providing support to ensure that our residents get the services they need and entitled to, and they don't fall between the cracks. And I think that's something that's been particularly with all our councillors here, is that no resident falls between the cracks. This is an area that I'm very passionate about, having worked in the aged care and retirement sector. These people represent our mums, our dads, our grandmothers and grandfathers, and they should be treated with the utmost respect in this journey of their life. I'm pleased that Council will continue to play a role in supporting our older residents. To our Director of City Life, Alison Kenwood, could you please pass on my thanks and acknowledge that the good work that the Directorate is doing with our residents, and I look forward to going out next week in the Aged and Disability, with the Aged and Disability Unit, to have a look at what they're doing. So thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor McElhinney. Do I?
Second that.
Yep, fantastic. Do I have any other speakers for this item? No, with there being no more, we will now proceed to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Against? Carried unanimously. Item 6.3.2, Climate Emergency Benchmarking. The report is outlined on pages 46 to 53, with the recommendation outlined on page 47. Do I have a move for this item? Councillor Villa-Gonzalo, seconder. Councillor Khan again. Councillor Villa-Gonzalo, would you wish to speak on the item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wyndham City acknowledges the latest climate science and has made a clear commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We have already demonstrated this through the recent adoption of our Greenhouse Action Plan and the Environment and Sustainability Strategy. We are currently recognized as a local government leader in sustainability and climate change, implementing the latest innovations in renewable energy, including solar and batteries. Our corporate greenhouse gas emissions were 12% below the 2020 target in 2018 and 19 as a result of street lighting upgrades and the rollout of Wyndham Solar City. Actions including community solar bulk buys and community power will build local resilience and help look after our most vulnerable, assisting Wyndham businesses and agricultural asset areas to be proactive in seeking out climate-related opportunities will strengthen the local economy while reducing emissions. Wyndham resolves to strengthen our existing programs to reduce emissions and to support the Wyndham community to take accelerated action. We are continually seeking new ways to do this, and we welcome, as always, input from the community. I am very pleased to support these important recommendations to secure Wyndham's low-carbon future. Mr. Mayor, Council recognizes the risk of climate change that climate change would bring to Wyndham, and we are doing our part to mitigate this risk, and we are considered a leader in the local government sector. We did not need a climate emergency declaration to achieve what we have achieved. We do not need a climate emergency declaration to do what we are doing, nor for us to continue with our efforts to do better than what we are doing now. Council is about doing what we can and not just talking about it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well said. Thank you very much, Councillor Villa-Gonzalo. Are there any other speakers on this item? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, my fellow councillors have summed up everything, but it's important to note that this report has been generated because last OCM, one of our residents came to the council meeting and asked the questions, what are we doing about the climate emergency declaration? And I think Lisa was one of them. So thank you, Lisa, raising the questions like this. It's important for the climate emergency. Now, we know that now Wyndham is heading towards the risk and everybody else. I think we live in sort of a part of the way the dry, there are not more trees, we can understand. And now, in principle, we know that 35-degree temperature is what Melbourne is now, or more will be in near future if you don't tackle the climate emergency. Now, it's good to see that the Wyndham City Council's area called Hopper Crossing, I was reading in newspapers last year, is the way the solar have been maximum installed compared to the Victoria State. So in terms of, Mr. Mayor, this council is actually just not making statements, we're leading by examples, and our residents are glad to see that, they are very much aware of what they can do and they can be part of that good initiative. So we're also looking in near future And this area is quite good to put a solar farms and things like that. So I look forward to see that council will maybe in near future explore some options how we can promote a solar farming in Wyndham City Council. Since we are very close to that city, we also have a large lands in the Wyndham City Council, so we're well suited for being a council who can support the solar. I do have the knowledge that, Mr. Mayor, there's a council called Sunshine Coast Council in Queensland who have run the project on solar, and they have got a very strong footprint in solar farming. So the Wyndham City Council can also be in near future can follow that steps and explore and be part of that good work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. Are there any other speakers for this item? No, with there being no more, I now put it to a vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 6.3.3, the Draft Sports Facility Capital Development Guide 2020 to 2025. The report is outlined on pages 54 to 57 with the recommendation outlined on page 54. The attachment is printed in a separate document, pages 153 to 187. Do I have a mover? Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. Do I have a seconder for this item? Councillor Shaw. Councillor Maynard, do you wish to speak on the item?
Thank you, I do. Excuse me. This draft guide will be the blueprint for facility standards and infrastructure provision for the next 5 years for sporting groups and other providers from mid-2020. The Sports Facility Capital Development Guide will, once adopted, sit under and be aligned with the active Wyndham strategy which we have adopted here tonight. This draft document has undergone extensive revision by officers after feedback from myself and my councillor colleagues. And after community feedback is finished, we'll come back to the chamber for final adoption. I encourage all Wyndham residents, including sporting groups and their members and committees, and to provide feedback on this document. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. Are there any other speakers on this item? Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with what Councillor Maynard has said. I suppose for myself, I'm sure for other councillors as well, I won't speak on their behalf though, that multi-use sharing of the pavilions is a big issue in our community. We have 80 plus sporting groups and growing very rapidly across Wyndham. We have 30 sporting facilities across our municipality. This is only going to be an ongoing problem for our community. Of course, all of our facilities, I think most of them, 99% are all multi-use sharing pavilions. So one seeing an updated to providing a larger community space within those pavilions for those that are sharing is actually really important. There's a lot of sporting groups today that share very smallish, older facilities that are in need of an upgrade, and I will be, for one, advocating for a couple of those over the course of the next 12 months. But certainly more importantly, I think it is important that, and I have spoken to council officers about this, that we work around a stronger advocacy campaign around our sporting development and what we actually we need in our community to support our growing community, especially our sporting community. We just passed an active strategy, active Wyndham strategy only 20, 30 minutes ago, and this is actually a really important part of executing that strategy. So I certainly think we need to be doing a lot more work working with our state and our federal colleagues in having them understand the pressures that some of our sporting groups are, the growth that we're seeing very quickly with our sporting clubs and what we actually need to support them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shaw. Do I have any other speakers on this item? Councillor McElhinney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to further add to Councillor Shaw. The AFL participation has grown in the last 5 years to 102 football teams to now 123 teams in Wyndham, with a third of these teams coming from 2 clubs in Point Cook alone. When we have 110 babies being born now in Wyndham, our future is our sports clubs, and I hope in this budget that the emphasis is on sports, because that is, we need to keep our young people busy, and it has to be a priority. And I congratulate Councillor Maynard on all his work in this area as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McElhinney. Are there any other speakers on this item? There being no more, we will now vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 6.4, Strategic and Town Planning. Item 6.4.1, Planning Permit Application WYP 11149/18. The construction of 6 double-storey dwellings at 20 to 22 Roseland Crescent, Hoppers Crossing. The report is outlined on pages 58 to 83 with the recommendations across pages 59 to 65. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Khan. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gibbons. Councillor Khan, do you wish to speak on the item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a good application we received on. Before we received that, we also received that what we call the 30-year objections, but it has been assessed under the planning scheme, the planning policy and the local planning policy, a residential zone clause 52.06 and clause 55, which meets the old guideline to issue them, grant them a permit. Now, officers have looked up closely with this application and they made a decision to grant an approval for the 6th dwelling. I know that it's a high residential area. There's a lot of area surrounding which is carry the character. I know there could be a decision hard for some of the residents who have raised the genuine concern saying that this application should be not be granted. But we do understand that now because the residential zone has been changed, dwelling is being proposed now that on page number 650-168 is also talking about is a 400 square meter to the 500 square meter will be 25% and 500 to 650 square meter. So kind of a mixed dwelling they're doing it. So it looks like that a developer, the builder have put down application with the variations of that dwelling they're trying to propose. So I would be supporting the councillors' officers' decision to support this application. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. Okay, do I have any other speakers on this item? Councillor McElhinney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I read with interest the concerns of the residents, and look, I'm very mindful of those concerns. While reading the officer's report, I wasn't at the planning forum that was a few months ago, and I have taken a trip down to the site and had a look at the area concerned. I know it can be difficult for residents when we see their local areas starting to change. And this is an area where the planning scheme encourages diversity of housing types and encourages housing growth. I've been reassured by the conditions being placed on the developer, though, that this planning permit, that the concerns of residents are being addressed. It's an area of good access to service and transport. The proposal generally satisfies the conditions of clause 55, and the report clearly outlines the additional conditions to ensure further compliance. For those reasons, I will be supporting the officer's recommendations tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McElhinney. Are there any other speakers for this item? There being no more, we will now vote on the matter. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 6.5, other reports. Item 6.5.1, the draft President's Park Master Plan. The report is outlined on pages 84 to 90. The recommendation is on page 84, and the attachments are printed in separate documents on pages 188 to 212. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Maynard. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hooper. Councillor Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
I do, thank you. I must say that there's certainly some very other important matters that we've have discussed tonight and will discuss as the meeting proceeds, but certainly in the sports development portfolio, I certainly think that tonight has a very sporty flavour, and I couldn't be happier in that regard. But I'm also acutely aware of the demands that are placed on council due to the growth in Wyndham, and it is not just in relation to sporting provisions. The current, the current adopted sports strategy that council passed in 2017 indicated a spend over 27 years of approximately $975 million, and going to that, approximately 50% will need to come from council. The reason I mention this, the sports strategy, is because the draft President's Park Master Plan is another small step in realising the needs of the sporting community. There are many groups who use facilities at President's Park, such as hockey, baseball, dog obedience club, softball, and I have to say one that I might throw in that's close to my heart, and that's Wyndham Park Run. And just to add at the end, just a little history on President's Park. It was actually named after, or in respect of our Shire presidents prior to or prior to the then Shire becoming a city. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. Do I have any others? Yes, Councillor Hooper.
Oh, I thought I'd better get the lungs going tonight. I haven't spoken yet. Look, I think this is an important one for the community to look at. The draft response master plan as it goes out addresses a number of key things about this site, including activities that happen around there. Now, for residents that live around President's Park, they've had the blessing and curse of events across the road, blocking streets and causing absolute havoc when it comes to parking. So I strongly urge residents in that area to look at this plan and look at how it's responding to the events infrastructure of that space. And if there's any feedback they want to give, then it's certainly the best time to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hooper. Are there any other speakers on this item? Being no more speakers, we will now move to a vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 6.5.2, the Laurie Emmons Reserve Master Plan. The report is outlined on pages 91 to 98 with the recommendations outlined on page 91 and further attachments on pages 99 to 112. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Maynard. Seconder? Councillor Hooper. Councillor Maynard, do you wish to speak on the item?
Thank you, I do. This master plan has been undertaken with considerable work by officers and substantial feedback from sporting groups and residents as well. It sets out a vision that will transform this reserve from an undeveloped open space to a significant regional park that will be home to some very happy sporting clubs and future users. The master plan establishes a long-term vision for this iconic area, giving it the recognition it deserves as another jewel in the sporting and recreational crown of Wyndham. Developments in the master plan include a criterium track, outdoor velodrome, BMX supercross track, pump track, traffic school. And for those people of my vintage and a little bit older, they would certainly remember the traffic school behind the exhibition buildings that I, as a young fellow, participated in and hopefully taught me how to drive in the right manner. Also, a redeveloped target archery field and facility, which features a grass space suitable for 2 senior cricket ovals, major events, new shared pavilion for use by cricket, scouts, drone users, that'll make Councillor Villan-Gonzalo happy, with associated parking, and that should make Councillor, Councillor Hooper happy. A wetland with boardwalks and viewing platform, walking and cycling tracks, arboretum with native and indigenous trees and plants, and also a destination for community, arts and culture, which will also make Councillor Hooper happy. Community facilities such as cafes, play space with diverse and accessible equipment and artist spaces. Further, a youth precinct, gateway with informal sports facilities, multi-use courts, skate facilities. A control of expected traffic flow into the reserve is via 2 separate entryways, formal car parking areas, designated overflow car parking areas as well. Also, an integrated landscaping and pathways. There are integrated landscaping and pathways throughout the site, including unification of materials and treatment and the development of passive open spaces with linkages to the adjoining Federation Trail. Class A recycled water will ultimately be available to irrigate the site. And as can be seen on pages 96 to 97 under financial implications, a quantity survey has advised that there is an estimated cost to the development of this master plan of some $68.7 million, excluding GST. It is important to say that there are 2 stages to likely attract external grant funding, those being cycling sports and the green and archery area that have a combined estimated cost of $33.7 million. Part of this wetland area in stage A is under the control of Melbourne Water, costing an approximate $13.5 million and to be funded by them. This will also enhance the wetlands and protect the existing significant trees and vegetation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. Do we have any other speakers on this item? Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I wholly support what Councillor Maynard has discussed in terms of this master plan. This is a significant piece of work. If it executes the way that it is planned, it will be an amazing infrastructure, park, open space, sporting, greenery, cycling, being active in our community. It's a huge possible investment of nearly $70 million, which I think is reflective of the work this council has done in terms of its investment in its capital works and what we're trying to do to actually invest in our very growing community, and one that's growing very quickly. The only comment I will make in particular is some feedback that it was good to see from some residents around making Laurie Emmons or having some sort of possible wet play splash park option. And I understand that they have deemed this master plan and this facility, this open space, not appropriate for that, and I accept that. However, it is something that as part of the Wyndham Parks 2021 work that we have been doing, and I've advocated strongly over the last 3 years to see us continue to enhance a lot of our local parks. This is obviously a huge regional park that we will be developing, but in terms of more of our local parks, I'm very keen to see these type of water play or splash park starting to be looked at as we continue to enhance our local parks and open spaces. As we know, we have more than 200. We're investing somewhere between $11 and $15 million this council term on upgrading our current local parks and open spaces. I'd like to see that continue, and I'd like to see how we continue to enhance those to make them more attractive for our local residents in their local community. And I think that is a way to do that, and I look forward to seeing some more work progressed as I've spoken with council officers over the next 12 to 18 months in regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shaw. Are there any other speakers on this item? Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I just wanted to say, Alison, to the team, it's a heartfelt thank you for the work and love that has gone into this document. The dream, the vision, the plan is something that won't just service the people of Wyndham, but the Western region. The velodrome, if anyone's been up to the velodrome in Bendigo, know that that's not just a place for bikes, it's a cultural nexus. It's where the community comes together for simple things like fates or Scottish tattoos or a range of things. And to actually build that capacity into our community, that's a legacy. Thank you very much, and please pass on my gratitude.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hooper. Are there any other speakers? Yes, Councillor Arndt.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's great to see this master plan offers different zones, as my fellow councillor mentioned, for various of sports and recreational purposes. And I want to also highlight the green, which features grassed space. A new shared pavilion and car parking will be suitable for multi-purpose sports, major events, and tourism. There is also a zone dedicated for community, arts, and culture, as mentioned before, which includes community facilities, cafe, play spaces, with diverse and accessible equipment and artist spaces. I'm also happy to see there will be facilities for popular sports such as table tennis and cycling. Given there are demand for indoor sports such as badminton, dancing, and yoga, I do hope to see the requirements for these popular indoor sports and activities can also be incorporated into the designs of the pavilions and community facilities. I just want to put this on record, and I do commit the good work, council officers, Alison, Cam, and Elio, for their good work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Arndt. Are there any other speakers on the item? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I have quite a fair to do with the Laurie Emmons now. I've every day passed the Sayers Road and passed and looked always on the left-hand side. There's a lot of young kids, there's a lot of young, the youth play the cricket, and also, though I have pleasure to now watching and personally visiting, there's a motocross. It's about to come. The motocross work is on progress, and motocross work will be completed. We can all see that now that will be done. So there's a lot of young kids I visited, and I saw that now they driving the dirt bike and they can't wait to get on the track. So I look forward to see that one motor track up and running on the Lorrimans. Can I also say that now $68.7 million is a milestone decisions we're making, and I'm glad that council's taking the strong and bold decisions. What a great location for the Laverton North and a Point Cook and also the Williams Landing residents to go and assess it. However, though, can I also thank you for those people who have provided the feedback and support and took the time and give their feedback. I think we have to mention them. And I'm delighted to see that one of the feedback, which has not been accepted, but that's fine, saying they couldn't be used as a night park. However, though, it's not possible because it's not having enough accessibility. That's the reason why the option have put up. But in future, residents like this, residents those who take a time and give a good feedback, that really value for the councils to make sure we produce a asset, to produce a better facilities that can suit for the resident. Now, also, though, somebody have given a feedback about installation of CCTV cameras, because we know that now currently the Lorrimans does face a bit of a, as other cities do, young kids go around and we do need to monitor it. So I think there has been considerable acceptance saying that council can be installed CCTV and the council policy when that get up and running. But also, though, we request every single resident to send an email to their local MPs and federal MPs, because council is promising a $35.7 million commitment, $33 million commitment need to come from the state government. So can I say now, we could not make this project without your support. So you need to get on your local MPs when you talk about it, say, hey, what about $33 million? Can we get it? And this is, you can do it, we all can do it, and achieve the target of $68.7 million. Once that will be get completed, will be a jewel in a crown. So we look forward to see that when that get completed. It will take, as estimated, not tomorrow, because good things takes a time. Rowan didn't got built in 7 days. So it will take 10 to 15 years as per estimated, because we are doing a great work. So I look forward to, and I'm pleased to be part of that with adopting today this. So we'll look forward to how it's progress in the near future. Thank you, thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Card. Any other speakers? No, there being no more speakers, we will now proceed to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. That's all right, take some adjustment. Item 6.5.3, Brookdale Road Reserve Master Plan Adoption. The report is outlined on pages 113 to 118. Thank you very much, Councillor McElhinney. I'll get to you. Recommendation page 113 and attachments pages 119 to 135. Councillor McElhinney is moving the item. Are there any? Yes, Councillor Maynard. Councillor McElhinney, do you wish to speak on the item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to say it's quite exciting to see 3 master plans for sporting facilities in one council agenda. I don't think we've had that in a long time. Look, I'd just say I'm pleased to see after a public exhibition, the master plan has been finalised for adoption, and I have to say that the residents' concerns have been listened to and are noted in the report. So your feedback does count and it is important, and I know that the people behind the scenes in the sports area, Cam Atkinson, I'm not going to name anyone else because I might get it wrong, but they do a fantastic job behind the scenes, and I do speak to the sporting groups, and the liaison and the communication between council and the sporting clubs is very good. So I look forward to this being built and having another fantastic facility in Point Cook. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McElhinney. Do I have any other speakers on this item? Councillor Maynard.
Thank you. This master plan is for a greenfield site consisting of approximately 4 hectares and was identified in the Wyndham Sports Strategy as an opportunity to provide some diversity in the sport and recreation options available to the residents of Point Cook. This will enable the facility to host junior and senior levels of competition and training for sporting associations, clubs and schools. As indicated in the report, this master plan will also allow multiple sports to be catered for and co-locate several user groups, as well as allowing for additional community use where possible. The draft master plan proposed for the development of the reserve includes basketball, where'd that come from? One baseball main field with synthetic infield, one softball field suitable for junior baseball with gravel infield, additional grass turf areas to support multi-use sports flood lighting for baseball field to applicable lighting standards, a shared pavilion for use by baseball, softball, cricket, soccer and other community user groups with associated car parking, a baseball batting cage, a circuit path 700 metres long and featuring paving and landscaping. Also an intergenerational physical activity and social space, inclusive play space and all abilities exercise area, and the primary entrance landscape treatment at the corner of Saltwater Promenade and Brookdale Reserve. This master plan will be funded by the following: capital development contributions, capital developer contributions, and grants where possible, such as State Government Growing Suburbs Fund and Sport and Recreation Victoria infrastructure grants. It is, however, important to note that these anticipated contributions, as I've mentioned above, excluding any potential grants, totals approximately $4.7 million from a total cost of $8 million. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. Do I have any other speakers? Councillor Hooper.
Again, I just want to thank Alison and the team for the work, but also want to acknowledge Point Cook Action Group for helping shape this strategy. The growth rate that Point Cook, being a Point Cook resident, we're all aware of, it's absolutely exploded over the past 10 years. So shaping the sporting facilities of that area is important. We can't just concentrate on the big sports. We do have to go for some diversity, and this certainly helps address that. So again, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hooper. Are there any other speakers on the items? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think it is a great way once get completed, but I'd like to say that, you know, we are actually building good facilities, but the roads not coping with the growth. So I would love to see that when I visit that, the red light on the Snares Road and Point Cook Road get fixed, so people can make a positive right turn. I think we know that we're building best reserve and best facilities for the people, but the state government should also appreciate how the council's job can become more easier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. Are there any other speakers on this item? There being no more speakers, we'll now proceed to a vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 6.5.4, the notice of intention to lease parts of 2 to 88 Sayers Road, Laverton North, also known as the Laurie Emmons Reserve. The report is outlined on pages 136 to 139 with the recommendations on page 137. Bless you, Councillor Billy Gonzalo. Do we have a mover? Councillor Maynard. Do we have a seconder for this item? Councillor McElhinney. Councillor Maynard, do you wish to speak on the item?
I most certainly do. This is one of a number of steps that is needed to allow for the resurrection of the motocross track at Laurie Emmons Reserve, to allow those who have dirt bikes to ride in safety under supervised conditions. Something I have been advocating for over 6 years, and I thank my councillor colleagues for their support in this. As the proposed lease is on Crown land managed by Wyndham City Council, Council is required to commence statutory procedures in accordance with Section 190 and 223 of the Local Government Act. I will keep my powder dry at this stage until the actual opening of the track, but I can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. Are there any other speakers on this item? Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. I think, first of all, again, thank you to council officers. I think this council term, this council has been excellent at looking at strategic parcels of land that we can either purchase or lease that actually enhance either developments like this or other capital infrastructure works, that we look to do across our municipality and ensure that we can have some skin in the game in terms of what we actually need to be developing for our community. I will be supporting this because it is an intention to lease part 2 of 88 Sayers Road. My only concern on this is on page 139 under financial implications 5D, where it says appropriate council capital contribution towards the development of the motocross facility. And I suppose my question is, and I'll be looking for further information as we move through this process, is what is an appropriate capital contribution? Obviously, under a previous item, we talked about Laurie Emmons, we talked about a nearly $70 million investment into Laurie Emmons, and here under the leasing part of the motocross, we're also talking about what it seems actually has been confirmed, it would be another council capital contribution towards the development of that. I'm not saying I don't support it, but I'm saying I'd like to understand what that capital contribution is towards that development, who is paying for that, is that ratepayers' capital contribution, is that part of the lease agreement with the private operator? I'd like some more information on that as this progresses through the process, but other than that, at this point in time, I support it moving to notice of intention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shaw. Are there any other speakers on this item? Being no more speakers, we'll now proceed to a vote. All those in favour? Against? Councillor McAloney, were you for or against? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Passed. Thank you. Item 6.5.5, Assembly of Councillors. The report is outlined on page 140 alongside the recommendation with the attachments on 141 to 147. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Shaw, do I have a seconder? Councillor Villa Gonzalo, do you wish to speak on the item? Councillor Shaw?
No, thank you.
Are there any speakers on the item?
Assemble.
Thank you very much. If there are no other speakers, we'll now proceed to a vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Notices of motion, item number 7, there are nil. Item number 8, under Council Seal, 8.1, the awarding of contract C2051/18, the reconstruction of Sawley Grove, Whitsunday Drive and Dunk Court. On pages 148 to 151 with the recommendations on page 148. Do I have a mover for this item? Councillor Gibbons. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Maynard. Councillor Gibbons, do you wish to speak on the item? Thank you. Are there any speakers on the item? Councillor Maynard.
Just to reiterate that, Council, from my memory, this financial year we'll be spending something like $30 million on the roads that it controls. And I have to say that, in particular, the reconstruction of Sawley Grove, I've had a number of residents contact me some 6 years ago, and now the work is about to be done. So I have no doubt they will be extremely happy. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Maynard. Are there any other speakers on the item? There being no more speakers, we'll now proceed to a vote. All those in... Councillor Khan.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say that, the tender has been awarded for that, because we're talking about the figures here, $1.4 million, $1,041,381, which is inclusive of GST, and other tender was $1.6 million. So there is a big gap here. I'd like to see that the tender, congratulations for the party who have done a tender to make sure they complete the contract, because it's quite significant difference between the two tenders, with $1.6 million and being $1 million.
Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. As was indicated, I'll now assume you're the last speaker. All those in favour of the item? Against? Carried. Item 8.2, the awarding of contract C2153/19, the construction of the Riverdale Community Centre. The report is outlined on pages 152 to 155, with the recommendation outlined on page 152. Do I have a mover of the item, please? Councillor Gibbons. Councillor Khan, I'll take you as the seconder. Councillor Gibbons, do you wish to... Thank you. Are there any speakers on the item? No. Councillor Khan.
It's important, Mr. Mayor, because we like to see that, how much council is spending money, and because of the communities growing now, so Riverdale Community Centre will be very important, because there are massive there's a massive development happening in Tarneit and surrounding areas, and always the residents are demanding more and more. So it's good to see that now we're awarding a tender, $7.7 million inclusive GST, so that can solve some of the problems the community faces, and we look forward to build more and more to meet the community requirement, because communities growing more in the surrounding area, and they could not wait to see all these facilities.
Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. Councillor Shaw, I can see what you meant when it's in terms of being able to speak on items. But anyway, we'll get to. All right, are there any other speakers? I guess there are not. Therefore, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item number 9, contract summary. There are nil. Item number 10, the questions with notice from the public gallery. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a number of questions this evening, so I will ask, just to ensure that we have all members in the gallery this evening before I proceed. The first question I have, in fact 2 questions, are from Raj Menon. Is Raj in the gallery this evening? No, okay, well, we'll move on from that. We'll just communicate directly with Raj Menon in regard to his questions. The next question is from Arnev Sati, and Arnev, I have seen you in the gallery this evening. Thank you. Again, 2 questions received this evening. So question 1, regarding the Indian Cultural Precinct in Wyndham. The feasibility study final report was published in September 2017 and stated that the next step is for Council to formally endorse the Multicultural Sculpture and Performing Arts Park as the preferred option and to negotiate with the Victorian Government on a funding agreement for the project. I request Council to provide an update on the next steps proposed in the report 2 years back. So, Mr Mayor, with your indulgence, I'll ask Director City Life Alison Kenwood to respond.
Thank you for your question and interest. I'll read my response just to give you the detail that's required from your question. At the Ordinary Council meeting in December 2017, Council resolved to note the Indian Cultural Precinct Feasibility Study report and the recommendations as a reflection of the outcome of the community consultation. Council subsequently provided a copy to the Minister for Cultural Affairs, Robin Scott, to consider. The feasibility study was funded to improve Victorian Government's decision on programs, projects and funding. And so any recommendations were subject to Victorian Government investment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And there's a follow-up question regarding the same matter. So question 2 reads, on the 6th of March 2018, the Council received the Indian Cultural Precinct location petition. The Council advised that final report was sent to the Minister for Multicultural Affairs in December 2017, and the Council is awaiting the Minister's response. Has Council received the response from the Minister, and what is it? So again, Mr Mayor, I'll ask our Director, City Life, Alison Kenwood, to respond.
Again, a detailed answer to your question, so I'll read it. The Indian Cultural Precinct is a state government project, and Council have played a role in facilitating the community consultation phase of this project. Council have been advised by the Department of Premier and Cabinet that the Victorian Government have allocated $1 million to the Multicultural Community Fund. The Department advised that it considered this approach would best enable a strong focus on community-led projects to support these communities and better support locally led infrastructure projects such as local facilities and centres for Indian and South Asian communities in Wyndham and surrounds. The Indian Community Infrastructure Fund has been announced and opened for applications late last week. This fund will support local community infrastructure projects to help maintain, upgrade, renovate and construct facilities used by Victorian Indian communities. The Department has advised that this will be a single-year grant opportunity. Applications are open until February 2020, and Council hope that the Indian and South Asian communities in Wyndham will apply for local opportunities.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Now, moving on, we've got a large number of questions this evening from members of the gallery concerning the item that was considered by Council earlier, and that was regarding the petition in association with the LXR works. There are some similarities in the questions, so I will read them out for completeness, but I will respond to some of them in one overarching response, and some that have got a point of difference I'll respond to individually. But I just wanted to reassure Mr Mayor, gallery members, that you will actually receive formal responses in writing as well. So even if we don't cover that detail specifically regarding your question this evening, we will provide that response in writing to you as well. So the first question I have this evening regarding that matter is from Michael Deneen. Is Michael Deneen in the gallery this evening? Hi, Michael. Thank you for your question. So Michael's question reads, currently there's a significant amount of traffic that crosses the Cherry Street railway crossing proceeding to the traffic lights at Sinnott Street, turning right and then left into Duncan's Road and heading to Werribee South. What measures are to be put in place at the new railway crossing to prevent this traffic from crossing the Princess Highway and proceeding straight up Wattle Avenue, turning right into Edwards Road and then left into Duncan's Road, avoiding 3 sets of traffic lights and creating significant traffic in these local streets? So if I might just respond, Mr Mayor, in 2 parts. Firstly, there was some detail included in the officer report in response to the petition, and it highlighted on page 11 under discussion those sorts of issues like these that are raised, that have been raised already with the state government and the LXRA, and will continue to raise those issues as a matter of course. The other important thing to note, of course, is that Council will be leading some work post the conclusion of the LXRA decision-making around those level crossings to sort of look at the future impact and then the changes that need to be made to the activity centre within Werribee itself to take into account those sort of traffic movements and so on, to really ensure the optimisation of the local area and to minimise the impact on local residents. So I'm more than happy to provide more detail on that, because there have been a lot of sort of officer recommendations made to government as part of these processes ongoing. But obviously we recognise that depending on what happens with the Cherry Street crossing and indeed the Hoppers crossing LXRA, there will need to be changes made to that local road network as well. So they're things that we'll be taking on notice and also forwarding to state government, including these questions as well for their reference, in addition to the petition that Council resolved to provide to state government as well, and those issues will continue to be prosecuted. So moving on to the next question, and this one's from Margaret Lewis. Is Margaret in the gallery this evening? Thanks, Margaret. So you've got 2 questions here, and again, similar to the sort of response I've provided just now, but I will read your question out for completeness, as I said. So this one reads, can you please provide the community what further measures the Council are taking, other than working closely with the LXRP, that will address the issue of further congestion, removal of trees, car parking and other areas of concern, as mentioned in the recent Council Wyndham News, considering that LXRP representatives advised that these are not in their brief and that they are only to remove the level crossings? So as I've said, those conversations with the LXRP are ongoing and have been. I'm happy to provide more detail, but it is contained within that officer report, and some of these things will also happen post-implementation as well, of course, of the LXRP, and it's very much a state government project. So Council's role in this is to ensure that we get the best designs possible and the best remediation of those works to ensure the maintenance and improvement of amenity over the course of implementation. So that's something officers are working on ongoing. Question 2, in accordance with the LXRP's proposals, depending on whether you are in the north or south side of Werribee CBD, a 1 kilometre long concrete and steel triple spans will dominate the backdrop and foreground of the CBD. This will be seen by transiting visitors from Melbourne and Geelong into Werribee Township, instead of the trees and river being the biggest asset of the town. Can Council advise what plan they have in place to avoid or deal with the graffiti that's inevitable on these structures, as has already been seen on the new Aviation Road Bridge, which is not even completed yet, and the graffiti that is covering the regional rail loop bridge abutments and columns in Bulburn Road? Again, we're going to be really vigilant with state government to ensure that the design, meets the best possible standards, and that's the work that literally is underway at the moment, including obviously feedback. There will be more consultation that state government are running early in the new year. But certainly in regards to graffiti, we've got a rapid removal graffiti program, and we'll be working really closely with state government agencies to make sure any graffiti like that is removed, and we'll work to ensure that we've got an agreement in place with them to have that rapid removal, so we don't have to wait for their authorisation to get rid of graffiti, that we're managing and maintaining that amenity as well as we can, because ultimately the beautification of the Werribee City Centre is what this council's been committed to, dealing with those congestion issues, and that will continue to be the focus, and we don't want this in any way to undermine that good work and the continued plans moving forward for the Werribee CBD. So moving forward, we have questions now from Jeanette Jones. Is Jeanette in the gallery this evening? Thanks, Jeanette. So 2 questions here. Has council taken the opportunity to review the plans of the tunnel option and upgrades it would present to the community? And question 2, does council realise the tunnel projects will incorporate total upgrades of the Werribee and Hoppers Crossing stations? So I can confirm that council officers have met with those community members who have proposed the tunnel, and there have been, considerations given to the information provided. And I also understand that those community members who have been talking about the tunnel options have also presented those early sort of drafts and thinking to the state government for their consideration. Ultimately, it's their decision as a state government authority, and what we're trying to influence is the penultimate design options to get the best possible outcome for the city. But ultimately, these are the sorts of questions, tunnelling and so forth, that is very much in the domain of the state government. So that's why we'll continue to forward through this information as it comes to hand, but also encourage residents to still engage in the consultation process that's going on. But certainly I can confirm that council officers have met with those community members who were talking about that proposal. And I do note also your comments around the Werribee and Hoppers Crossing stations as well. So happy to provide more detail to you there in writing. The following question is from Leanne Sosniak. Is Leanne in the gallery? Hi Leanne, thank you. So 2 questions, again relating to the level crossing removals in Werribee. Does council realise that the tunnel project will eliminate the need for the Ison Road Bridge? So as I said just now, Mr Mayor, through you to Leanne, that's certainly something that officers have been in discussions with those proposing the tunnel about. Ultimately, it really is the decision of state government, and we understand there are cost limitations to what the state government's proposed in regards to level crossing removals. So our job as officers is to kind of prosecute the best possible scenario from a design perspective. So these are all of the things that we've provided feedback on, including, as I said, the submission that's been made by community members to state government. And I know that the local member has also met with residents in that context as well. So question 2, does council realise that if council does not support the tunnel option, they're denying the state government the opportunity to save substantial money on the Werribee Street overpass? As I said earlier, Mr Mayor, I think we need to be really clear, this is not council's remit. It would be great if council was in control of all of these things that happen in the city, including, the sort of arterial road networks as well. We'd probably manage them in a slightly different way. But ultimately, the reality is it's a state government domain. There's an agency set up that are charged with this responsibility, and decision-making ultimately rests with them. They have carriage of the budget and the penultimate design decision-making. So it's important that we put council's best foot forward in terms of discussing design options, influencing as best we can, using the technical advice of our officers as well. But certainly from a council perspective, we just encourage that people continue to raise these issues with state government as we will continue to do also in forwarding this petition and these questions raised as per council resolution earlier this evening. I've got 2 final questions, again along similar lines. So from Duncan McDougall. Is Duncan in the gallery this evening? Hi Duncan, thank you. Question 1, is the council aware of the implications of the proposed relocation of the Cherry Street crossing overpass on the Civic Centre? Currently, the Civic Centre is set in a standalone site with a beautiful garden surrounds with a professional, attractive appearance on the Princes Highway. The proposed overpass, which will run next to the Civic Centre, will be high and wide, a massive overbearing concrete structure, concrete not being the best of architectural materials as it darkens with age and suffers, I think, lichen and mould attack on the surface, as well as the inevitable ugly graffiti, as this is the case with Newport and Sunshine areas as well. This in due course will detract from the appearance of the area, be a noise nuisance from the traffic and degrade the outlook to the Civic Centre. So these, of course, are things that we're aware of. And as I said earlier, Mr Mayor, through you to Duncan, we are looking at updating that sort of structure plan within the Werribee CBD to sort of take account of those implications. And certainly from a design perspective, we're wanting to get the best possible outcome from state government around the LXRA. So those sorts of treatments, you know, we're keen to have input into. And again, the graffiti, maintaining amenity is going to be front of mind for council as we move forward. The second question, Duncan, you've got here is the council aware of the dangers to existing traffic from the Civic Centre driveway. Car and truck traffic turning towards Melbourne from the overpass will be heavy and would not have the same line of sight availability as present for vehicles exiting the Civic Centre driveway. It will become very dangerous, and there'll be a short time for when vehicle proceeds to exit the driveway to the time that cars or trucks are seen as they turn from the overpass. So these are all things that we're exploring at the moment. And Mr Mayor, I think it's important to note the work of the council to date outside of the LXRA work. There's certainly been councils that have put forward, and Councillor Shaw put forward a motion around traffic and managing that congestion, and certainly looking at having that signalised intersection around Wattle Avenue and so on. So they are current things that council's actively exploring. Again, the domain of Department of Transport, of course, in that context, not the LXRA specifically, but that is in fact sitting with the Department of Transport. And we've had regular meetings. Outgoing Mayor Shaw has met a number of times with senior officers and Department of Transport to prosecute that, and we'll continue to do so. So we're very much aware of those sorts of issues that you're raising. So finally, the last question is from Susan. Sorry, you're there over there. Thank you. Susan, your questions again relate to what proposals has council planned in order to create a new and smarter, larger meeting space and environment within Werribee City after the crossing removals are completed as planned to accommodate the new rapidly growing estates and population. I think that's what I referred to earlier, Mr Mayor, about that work to really revisit and reimagine the Werribee Town Centre to ensure that we get, you know, those sorts of community infrastructure provisions there and the planning right, you know, penultimately. So we're working really closely to ensure that work happens, and that is council's domain and things that we can really take the lead on and ensure we get the best possible outcome there. Question 2, does the council have a plan to upgrade the Werribee City Centre with additional acreage committed to inner city beautification, meeting spaces and open green community inner city space, equivalent to the land which would be available from removing the train line and including release of approximately 2 hectares on the railway reserve behind the Civic Centre to provide parking for over 500 cars or for landscaping? So a really good question, again, will be something we explore as part of this Werribee City Centre work. But again, Mr Mayor, if I could highlight the work of council to date, and it gets back to the point Councillor Shaw made earlier about the importance of green spaces and parks in Wyndham towards 2040, and that is really about investing and acquiring land in strategic sites within all of our activity centres to ensure that beauty premium, if you like, to really maximise the sort of urban habitat, you know, from trees, beautiful landscapes, you know, small parks to large parks and that sort of thing. That's really what council's focused on, and that's around those acquisitions that we can make strategically to create that sort of outcome. And certainly in this term of council, they've been incredibly passionate and strategic in their prosecution of that vision, and that's something we'll continue to see, irrespective of the outcome, I think, of these LXRA crossings. And that very much, Mr Mayor, is the domain of council and where we can have the most influence. So, Mr Mayor, that takes us through to the end of those questions this evening. Thank you.
Very much, and have a drink of water as well there, Madam CEO. Okay, we'll now proceed to item 11, which is the Councillor Delegates Reports. Item 11.1, Councillor Delegates Reports. Report is outlined on pages 156 to 157, with the recommendation on page 157 and attachments from pages 158 to 168. Do I have a mover for the item? Councillor McElhinney, and I'll take Councillor Shaw as the seconder. Councillor McElhinney, do you wish to speak on the item? Oh, sorry, my apologies. What we'll do is we'll now ask any councillors that wish to speak on the item. So you can now speak on the item, councillor.
Yes, look, I've got 2 delegates' reports for the year, so...
You're asking me for double time?
No. But I would like to say we've been working on the youth service programs and events planned over the Christmas period, so there will be communication going out for people. The West Justice mortgage stress program has been a success and continues to be a success. We saw today at the homeless thing that, was it 120 evictions were avoided because of the work of the mortgage stress. I'd also like to say we have a new inspector who is on board now, and I thank Marty Allison for his number of years working with the Neighbourhood Watch.
Yeah. Just 2 seconds.
People leaving and...
Oh, sorry.
All right, continue.
Okay. We've worked with Crime Stoppers and their videos, and with the youth, local schools. But I'd also like to just say at the end of all this, it's been a busy year for the Safer Communities portfolio, but I would like to acknowledge 2 people from West Justice that are leaving at the end of the year, and that's Shauna Moore, the lawyer for West Justice Director Policy, and she will be going to be utilised by the wider sector, not just Wyndham, as the Director of Policy Engagement for Federation of Community Legal Centres in Victoria, which is a fabulous achievement. I met Shauna when I was Mayor in 2011, who came from Minter Allison to now move into the wider sector's fantastic. She was instrumental with the couch surfing in limbo report, looking at many lenses about couch surfing and identifying legal policy and service gaps and ways forward. And she worked on the Mikey program, and she's been working on the Justice Precinct as well. I could keep going on. Most recently, both of us have spent time out in the Werribee Court and Sunshine Court having a look and visiting, not for any other reason, for our advocacy endeavours for our new Justice Precinct. I'd also like to acknowledge Dennis Snellthorpe, the CEO of West Justice. Dennis came to one of my first Justice roundtables, and I think Kelly was running it at that point. Key projects included the Mikey Transport Project, which is assisting so many kids in our community that can't get to school, now can get free Mikey transport and funding. He's been involved with the successful program of the school lawyer program. Dennis has also took on council in relation to hardship policies when it's come to rates, and he's always out there for a fight to navigate the judicial system and make sure that we are accountable. I'd just like to say there is one thing, both Dennis and Shauna has definitely put West Justice on the map and Wyndham on the map, and I hope the success for both of them. Shauna, as she's going on to bigger things, but Dennis is retiring, but I have a feeling we'll see him pop up fighting somewhere in the future on some worthy cause in the name of justice. So, thank you.
Hear, hear. Thanks, Councillor McElhinney. Any other councillors wish to speak to their reports? No, there being no more speakers, we'll now proceed to adopt the reports. So can I have all those in favour please raise their hands? Against? Carried. We'll now move to item 13, confidential business. Can I therefore have a mover to suspend standing orders? Councillor Maynard.
I move that pursuant to section 89(2) of the Local Government Act 1989, standing orders be suspended and this meeting of council be closed to members of the public in order for council to discuss confidential business.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. Councillor Arn will second that. Excellent. And it appears the members of the gallery know what to do, so we'll wait until they depart.